You might recall this story about the ostrich farm in BC that made viral attention because the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, among the Liberal government and David Eby of the BC provincial government, were ordering the culling of 400 ostriches that they believe were contaminated with symptoms of bird flu, which they have done conclusive studies. They've brought in veterinarians, they brought in doctors, they brought in medical experts. They have yet to state that these birds are contaminated with bird flu. They know that it's completely false what the government is saying, but nonetheless, they have continued their purge against this ostrich farm. And I just want to remind people about this story. So Redacted did this little segment here. I'm not going to show all of it because it's like 13 minutes long, but here's just a bit of the story here. It's sped up because it's a fairly lengthy video, but here's kind of what went down with this.
Well, listen to this crazy story. In late 2024, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the CFIA, ordered the killing of about 400 ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farm near Edgewood, British Columbia, after they say they detected H5N1 avian flu. But the farm fought back. They fought the order in court, arguing the birds were healthy and that they had made it through the flu and everything was fine. But that's not enough for the communist Canadian government. They still want to kill these birds, all 400 of them. Now everyone from Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Bobby Kennedy, even Dr. Oz, and friend of the show David Creighton have gotten involved to stop the killing of these birds. And now you can add Redacted to that list to stop the communist government overreach in Canada. This country is descending into chaos. This story has gone viral around the world. Yesterday, reports are even black government helicopter was flying around the farm, monitoring the protests that were nearby, even though this flock remains symptom-free for over 220 days. So Katie Pasitny grew up on the farm. She's the oldest daughter, and she spent over 30 years taking care of these ostriches. She's taken on the role as really a spokesperson trying to save her family's livelihood, and she joins us this afternoon from British Columbia. Katie, great to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you both for having us on. It's a really big deal, and it's a really big problem, and we're just fighting, and we're going to try and take this to the finish line.
So you're in the 11th hour now because the government has said, we are going to do this. There was an appeal. It was denied. So what is your Hail Mary at this point?
Our Hail Mary is international support. You know, some of our biggest support has been international. It's been in the US, it's been in Australia, it's been all across the world. Canadians are really rising up. I keep putting out messages saying, rise up, Canada, this is our time. We are dealing with a broken policy. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency operates with excessive freedom and no accountability. You know, when we're seeing that internationally accepted biosecurity protocols are putting the world at risk of losing natural immunity, it's a really big problem. Natural immunity has kept us alive for millions of years, and all of a sudden antibodies and natural immunity don't exist. They say that cattle, poultry, pork producers rely on international trade markets. Okay, well, we're not testing these animals for illness. We're just killing them. We're killing survivors, livelihoods, property rights, food independence. It's all at risk. Decades of genetics and work, regardless of health or recovery. We're losing our animals, and we're putting humanity at risk. With divide and conquer, I just keep saying it feels like our government is just trying to keep us distracted with all these other things going on in the world. But we do know that Canadian Food Inspection Agency, they take directives from the World Animal Health Organization, which is, I believe it's the OIE directives. And we're dealing now with international guidance. We're not looking out for our own country's best interest. Our farmers are getting steamrolled at an alarming rate. We are losing farmers, we're losing genetics. Our ostriches are not food consumption. We are not a poultry facility. We are not commercial poultry. We should have never been put in the poultry category. And we are fighting. We've only been fighting this long. For 232 days, we have healthy, natural immune, herd immunity animals that deserve the right to live. They have robust antibodies. They've survived millions of years on this planet due to their antibodies and resiliency, but they're actually at risk to lose their life to an organization like Canadian Food Inspection Agency. We've been screaming to please just let us test them. And they are threatening us 6 months in jail and a $200,000 fine per ostrich we test to prove their
and killing all of the birds on top.
So that's a bit of the breakdown here, is that this is an ostrich farm, not for consumption. And because we know that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and a lot of these, government agencies are massively corrupted. I mean, we saw a lot of it with COVID. how easily corrupted they are with big pharmaceuticals, with these lobby firms that come internationally. They're not in the interest of Canadian. They don't come from Canadian interests. They come from the interest of the billionaire class, like Bill Gates and, Warren Buffett and George Soros and so many other, cultivating figures that are demonizing one of our most precious resources of this country is our agriculture. And it's one of the oldest occupations of human history is farming, agriculture, the ability to grow food. And that's being threatened on a daily basis. They first originally threatened farmers when it came to nitrogen, when it came to climate change. And that's where you saw the protests in the Netherlands, people protesting against their government with these, fertilizer rules and restrictions, and how they weren't able to, have cattle ranches because cow farts were apparently, adding the methane to the atmosphere, even though we have private jets, even though we have the military that does a lot of, harmful effects to the environment. They blew up the Nord Stream pipeline and no one said a word, non-environmental said a word about that. But you as a farmer that's growing food and vegetation to feed a community that's been going around for centuries, that centuries of families and century-owned farms have been doing this periodically throughout time, they're the ones that have to be demonized because they're adding to the climate change catastrophe. And now here you have an ostrich farm owner who, again, they're not growing the ostriches for consumption, but the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the governments are demanding the death of these birds because they believe that they're contaminated with this avian flu that has not been properly tested. They demanded that they get an appeal so they can be properly tested. The Canadian government ignored that, and they're still going with it. And they're finding and jailing people that want to protect these birds. It's unbelievable, folks. It's unbelievable. And in some cases, it's unbelievable, but it's also believable because of how gross our Canadian government is getting. Like, it's hard to believe, but as we've been doing this for quite a long time now, as we've seen the transformation of Canada turning from the country that I once beloved and graciously appreciated to this empty vessel of globalist catastrophe, yeah, I almost can believe this. That they're going to demonize farm animals, not even for consumption, because they just believe at the top of their minds that, they're contaminated with this avian flu. Which, by the way, isn't kind of suspicious that the avian flu, they're not testing, pigeons or seagulls or any other bird, but they're going after chickens and they're going after cattle. Huh. You mean the food that we're eating, the beef, the chickens. What's next? Are they going to go after deer for avian flu? Because that's another source of meat? Well, it's a good thing that Bill Gates can then swoop in and say, hey, I got the solution because apparently all your meat is contaminated. Let's, eat the chemical meat that I produce. Eat this fake Beyond crap and ingest that into your body that's going to cause horrible damages to your body. Horrible damages. So it's unbelievable. But it's also kind of believable concerning the fact of how heinous our government is. And it's happening. It's happening. So, DC Media, happening now. Heartbreaking scene at Universal Ostrich Farm as RCMP and the CFIA are at the ostrich enclosure fence preparing to slaughter 400 healthy animals. So they did the testing behind the Canadian government back and concluded they have proof that these are healthy animals, that they're not contaminated, that they haven't had symptoms. But the Canadian government, the Food Inspection Agency, is going to still massacre these ostriches. And let me just remind people, they're not for consumption. So what threat are they posing to the general public? Even if they were contaminated with an avian flu symptom, what possible motivation would the Canadian government have and the Food Inspection Agency have to go and slaughter ostriches that nobody is going to be consuming. No, like they're just going to be raised as a humane animal. Like, what possible motivation would there be to slaughter 400 precious, healthy animals? And they also say, listen to the emotion of Katie's voice. That's the farm owner. That's who you just saw earlier. As she begs them to let them feed the birds. So prepare yourself, because this is very emotional to even deal with this.
You guys are murderers. How many animals are you going to kill before you stop? No, they won't. Because you guys are operating from the World Health Organization and the United Nations. This is absolutely insane. This is tyranny. This is overreach. This is tyrannical behavior on families and terrorism. This is terrorism on families.
And right now, a letter from the CFIA, as of this morning, asks us to maintain control of these birds.
I'm not going to talk about the letter now, okay? What I'm asking you to do is to leave.
How can you guys look so stern, so angry, so have no emotion?
Any other questions for me at all?
We are planning right now to go feed these animals.
How do you have no emotion?
Can you come in here and feed them?
The CFIA will take care of that, but you need to leave.
Listen, you said the CFIA
okay,
will
Mama.
take care of this.
It's okay, Mom. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. They need to be fed.
So it's devastating. And those are healthy birds. You know, I don't raise ostriches. I don't know exactly, how they're supposed to look, but they seem healthy to me. And considering the fact that, they've done the testing, they've proven their case, they have made the argument that it makes absolutely no sense why even the food agency would be at this. Again, they're not for consumption. They're not being, slaughtered to use as ostrich meat. So why is the food agency getting even involved with this? And as she stated there, it's because it's tyranny. They're completely co-opted by the World Health Organization that is run and operated by the billionaire class like Bill Gates to squash down on farmers and their ability to produce livestock and crop and alienate them from an occupation that's the oldest throughout human history, that provides us the nutrients, that provides us the energy, provides us the essentials of human existence. If we don't have farms, we don't have the ability to pretty much live. And they are not the problem in the situation. They're not the problem to deal with avian flu or climate change. They're the ones actually the most climate conscious of all the occupations, because they need the ability to have the proper water maintained. They need to have the proper, soil excavation to grow the crop. They understand how important nature is. They are one with nature. So why is our governments, why are the people screaming the loudest about, nature and climate change and the environment and health and safety, demonizing the people, the very people that are the most conscious about those things? They're demonizing the farmers. They're not going after, they're not going after the laboratories that are creating these viruses. They're not going after the individuals that are purposely manufacturing this virus and spraying it across the public. They're not going after them, but they're going to go after the farmers. The farmers with healthy animals, because that's what they've been told to do. And that's what they're even saying. We've been told by the CR, we've been told by the RCMP, we've been told by the government to do this. As they stand there cluelessly, like idiots. Oh, we've been told to do this. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm going to do it because that's what I got told to do. Absolutely devastating, folks. And there's more to this. So That was just a few of the officers that showed up. You could hear Katie's plea. Now, I don't understand why you're doing this. And then more officers showed up, and they cut off the power to the farm. Breaking, power's been shut off to the ostrich side of Universal Ostrich Farm. The culling of 400 ostriches could be imminent. So they cut off the power of this farm to protect ostriches, to protect animals. And the Canadian government deliberately cut off the power to shun down the people protecting the ostriches. Because they want to mass slaughter these animals. And here is Katie once again recording this in complete devastation. The Canadian government is doing this. The Canadian government is doing this.
Ostrich, it is 4:30 in the morning, and they have cut the power to our side of the ostrich pens. So our power is gone on the side of the ostrich farm side. We have a house side, which is on one side of the public road, and the ostriches are on the other side of the public road. And we have been now disconnected from power. So this is absolutely psychological warfare, terrorism at its biggest on a family that has just been dedicated to doing everything good to protect Canadian farmers and do it the right way. We've done it in peace and love and solidarity and going through proper legal channels. Remember, we have a leave into the Supreme Court with an emergency stay order impending, and they're still doing this with reconsideration material that they will not acknowledge with our expert witness reports. Just anyway, a heads up that yes, so they have now dropped our power as of 4:30 this morning on the side of all the ostriches. Send lots of prayers. We love you very much.
Utterly devastating. Utterly devastating. And I would agree that this is an act of terrorism. That you shutting off the power, shutting off the resources. Like, luckily they mentioned that they have two different factions. There's the house side and the ostrich side, and they're only cutting off the power to one side. So I guess that's the saving grace, is they have still the house. But, you know, you're talking about the Canadian government here. You're talking about the Canadian government that deliberately is attacking and demonizing Canadians on this measure. Even when this farm owner, who has cared and loved and supported these ostriches, followed the guidelines, followed up on, you know, getting them tested and following through on medical checkups to prove her case that these are healthy animals. The Canadian government completely ignored that, sidelined that, and are still pursuing to demonize and attack this farm. And it just seems so crazy to me that they're doing this on the basis of because of the avian flu. And correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I was a child, 20 some odd years ago. I just turned 30. So, I would have been like 9 or 10. But around 2004, 2005, there was a breakout of avian flu around that time. I don't remember hearing stories like this, like they had to call a bunch of ostriches and demonize farmers and attack them for a strain of avian flu. I don't remember hearing this. And it's moments like that makes me kind of step back at previous iterations. Just like with COVID, I brought up numerous times that, well, isn't it kind of interesting that back in 2003, there was the SARS outbreak in Toronto. And the SARS outbreak was a respiratory illness and very similar to the COVID strain. They actually referred to it as the coronavirus beta, meaning that it was the first kind of inscription of the coronavirus. And people, had it spreading across Toronto specifically because it was transferred from China to Pearson Airport and whatnot and spread through Toronto. And you look back at that, okay, 2003, you don't have the technology that we had in 2020, but somehow in 2003, we had this virus spread across Toronto. They called for a state of emergency. They shut a lot of it down. And then in a matter of months, they had a concert, an outdoor concert with 500,000 attendees. How is that able to happen in 2003? And to look at 2020, where we had a roller coaster up and down, left and right, shut this down. You are going to lose your job. You're going to lose your restaurant, your business, whatever. Mask up, 6 feet apart, no natural like the insanity that goes through this, the insanity that's happening right now is absolutely berserk. And you think, okay, in 2005, the strain of avian flu, again, you don't have the technology that we have now, but even back then, they didn't go through this measure. They didn't demonize farmland and ostriches and threaten to shut off their power because they believe of avian flu. Which makes me believe that whole narrative is complete crap. That, oh, they're going after ostriches because of the avian flu? Because of bird flu? So why are they going after cattle then? Oh, they believe cattle somehow is affected with bird flu? Like, how does that make sense? It makes sense, though, if you want to decrease the consumption of organic livestock, if you want to demonize farmland, and if you're someone like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or George Soros or any other, the billionaire class that wants you to eat bugs and tells you to go shut your face while they're eating filet mignon on the other side of the world at Davos, kind of makes sense that way. And it really makes me wonder why, throughout history, no one has ever thought to demonize them as terrorists. You know, we're talking about terrorism with Antifa. We talk about terrorism with people, waving the Palestine flag from the river to the sea. We talk about terrorism when it's transgender LGBT. But no one ever demonizes Davos, the World Economic Forum, the WHO, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, George Soros, any of these malicious monsters as terrorists. Which I can tell you, they are far worse. They are far worse than any organized group within your community. Far worse. Far way worse. But of course, complicity rules all. People are bought out. People are, it's just absolutely crazy. So here's Viva Fry talking about this. It says the Canadian Gestapo have now cut the power to Universal Ostrich Farm. Apparently, there were dozens of police vehicles en route. This is the Canadian government in 2025. Although they have been approaching totalitarian Soviet-level policy for quite some time now. Exactly. And I would say this is not a just Canadian basis, that this is going globally. That this is the West now. Because the West has been occupied. I've said this for quite some time now. The West has been hijacked by these elite criminals, by the criminal cabal. And I know people think I'm crazy, some sort of lunatic, to think that, Jason, do you really believe that a bunch of bankers would gather together and do malicious acts towards each other? Yes! What do you think they do on G7 trips? What do you think they do at G20 summits? What do you think Davos is about? What do you think an act of parliament and the House of Commons is about? Do you think they gather around eating snickerdoodles and talk about Survivor? No. They gather with their lunatic buddies, these demonic donor class beings, to further the absolute chaos against us normal human beings. It's us versus them. It's not left versus right. It's us versus them. They are the monsters. They are the demons that are wrecking your life. It's not your friends. It's not your neighbors. It's not your family members. It's not people down the street. It's not even the purple hair, half gender people at colleges. It's the demonic billionaire class that are purposely pitting against you because they could not give a damn about you. You are cattle to them. You are less than vermin to them. That's why they're doing this. That's why they're okay with doing this. And the RCMP officers, they're okay with this. They're just saying that, we're doing our job. We're doing our job. We're not going to ask questions because, everyone's losing their jobs through AI, through this horrible government, through temporary foreign workers. We're not going to question the government. They're going to take our jobs away. Here's Table Salt saying heartbreaking video. The owners of West Kootenay Ostrich Farm are told by the CFIA they need to leave their farm today or face arrest. This is so the RCMP can execute by gunshot the owner's 400 ostriches as part of a cull. So this is the main officer of the RCMP telling the farm owners that they have to leave their property or face arrest. Gonna load here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you guys the voluntary option to stay in here tonight, or you can leave tonight. That's number
nice.
one. Okay. If you do leave, you won't be allowed back in. Okay. Just so you know. Okay. And if you do try to come back in, or you have people try to.
Well, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You would be dealing. No.
Yeah, that's fair.
This has been, we've been very confused today. We're humble farmers. We don't understand this process, and this is we don't.
We appreciate that.
You love your animals, decades old with health, and I know, but listen, I know you always get short because you always have something to say too, but at the end of the day, you're in quarantine.
I have empathy. I understand what's going on. I need
Stop. Enough. Stop, please. Stop, please. We're not about this. We are a really respectful farm, and we're a humble.
You're passionate. I believe that, and I understand.
What would happen if you watched your mom fall to her knees for the 35 years of everything she's given to these animals? No, but don't. This is me.
No, but I
please. I asked for some space. Can't even make that stuff up.
And the guy's grinning. You could see the smirk on this guy's face. Well, we gave you the option to leave. Voluntarily you're allowed to leave, but once you leave, you can't go back. You'd see he's smirking about this. He's enjoying this. He's enjoying this unchecked, unaccountable power that, you've given us the duty to go and attack and demonize a farmer and shoot down ostriches? Oh, that sounds like fun. I'm not going to question that. I'm not going to be suspicious. That doesn't sound logical to me one bit. I don't have a critical thought in my body, but I'm going to go along with it because, hey, I might lose my job to a temporary worker who's going to be obedient. Or AI. Unbelievable. Again, it really makes me sick to see this. And it's heartbreaking. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, it is believable because this is where the future's heading towards. This is honestly where the future's heading towards, for folks. Where we're just going to have our own little Gestapos. We never really fought fascism. Fascism didn't die after World War II. We kind of just interpreted into our own little factions. We brought a part of it into our own little territories. And now here it is. Where you have RCMP officers, where you have the Food Inspection Agency lining up to arrest farmers and kick them off their property so that they can go and destroy ostriches. Unbelievable. It's crazy, but like Viva Fry stated, this is what's happening, folks. This has been a long time coming. And this is not just a Canadian thing. This is happening globally. Look at what the UK's turned into. Look at what Australia's turned into. Look at what the United States has turned into. This is done all intentionally. All done intentionally. This is decades long, the process that they want to turn into little fascist Orwellian feudalist states, because that is how the billionaire class, the real cabal of master criminals, the mobsters, that is how they facilitate. That is how they operate. Is that it's us versus them. We're the peasants. We're the plebes. We're less than dirt. And if they can't find something useful for us, they might do stuff to us. And I wish that was hyperbole. I wish I was making a joke. I wish that, didn't sound crude and gory and kind of, dark. But given the direction of where AI is going towards, and given the direction that, billionaire tech oligarchs like Larry Ellison and Elon Musk and other people have now taken the reins of control over your community, over services, over your health, your daily lives, every aspect, every turn, they're going to partner with the WEF. And the WEF has already stated that there's going to be, as AI is going to transform things, useless eaters. Meaning that individuals that they don't find purposeful or useful to their agenda, they're just going to, you're going to be, disappeared. Let's just say that. You're going to be gone. These are people that could not give a damn about you. And what makes me more upset about this, going back to Daisy Media, he's got a lot of tweets about this. Kudos to him for reporting on this and being boots on the ground with this subject. So, protesters who were at the scene confronted the RCMP, and it says, just doing their jobs. Video from Jim Kerr on the ground at Universal Ostrich Farm shows the large number of RCMPs staged to assist the state cull 400 healthy ostriches. I can't believe this in Canada. And again, this is the same RCMP that is kind of allowing, and I know that seems crazy because we've seen RCMP articles, cracking down on these super laboratories and fentanyl. It's amazing they're not cracking down on that and doing a further investigation on stopping the mass amount of overdose, but they're cracking down on farmers. Just to show you where the priorities have switched. So here's the RCMP just openly stating they're doing this.
Good morning, sir. Good to see you. Glad you're all here, kinda, in a weird way.
You've mentioned good things about PLT before.
I've what?
You've mentioned good things about PLT before. We've met before.
Yeah, we've met.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all met.
Yeah.
We've had some conversations. It's been an interesting time.
Yeah.
Really sorry it came down to this.
Yes.
Do you think that the family's going to be given an opportunity to be able to get this stay order in? You guys going to hold off until they find out whether that's going to happen or not?
So right now, just to let you know, I'm dealing with Jeff.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, you know what? I actually shouldn't be doing this. You're right. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Wow. Well, are you going to abide to the stay order that was permitted, that allowed for this family to get further notice before you jump in and attack and demonize ostriches? Well, we got ordered to do this. Like the mentality. And this is what I mean, like when we look at like police brutality, for example, this is why we talk about this. It's not that we're against cops. We're not against law enforcement. Obviously it is a service that is necessary for communities. There's definitely a purpose to have law enforcement, but the problem and why we investigate, why we point out police brutality, and why we call for action is not law enforcement to be got rid. I know people like to say, defund the police. That's absurd. Anyone that repeats that is an absolute moron to state that. But they need to be investigated. They need to be held to account when there is an instance where, they have this judgment call when they're ordered to do something and they go a different direction, or they're being told that they have to do this, even though it doesn't make sense, even though it's completely flawed, even though it's against their own ethics as being law enforcement, as being a police officer. So that's why this is such a big deal. And for, the RCMP officers to start with a, just a conversation and say, oh, it's nice to meet you. Have we met before? Blah, blah, blah. Do a little small talk. And then just to say, yeah, well, you got told to do this. Wait, all right, what about the stand order that was issued by the government that allowed for this family? No, we're just going to do it. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. So now here, once again, DC Media, thank you for all these tweets, for pointing this out, because I think people need to be aware of this. So here's Katie after this, after cutting off the power, after being told that you're voluntarily allowed to leave, but you can't come back. Just, it sounds very cultish. So it says, Katie from the Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC, with a desperate plea to the United States President Donald Trump. Our government has turned on us. These beautiful birds don't need to die. There's important science being done here. So now she's turning towards Trump. And we know that RFK Jr. has mentioned about this. RFK Jr., I believe, went to that ostrich farm on a private trip and talked directly to the farm owners, directly talked to Katie. And so he's definitely involved. And there's a possibility that maybe Trump can resort to something like this because RFK knows about this, that they're making this plea deal. And here's her message to the United States president. I'm not sure that Donald Trump is actually going to coordinate to do something about this. It's uncertain. There's a very, very, very low possibility that he's going to, do something about it. But here's her message to the U.S. president.
Mr. Trump, President Trump, this is a cry out, a plea from Canada. Please stop the slaughter of almost 400 healthy ostriches that are going to suffer today or tomorrow. We need a miracle. The world has been calling on a miracle. This is of interest, as you know, I know you know. Yeah, you would say hello. They are claiming that these animals are virulent and that have a virus and that they're sick, but instead these ostriches hold the key to humanity with their antibodies that can help with therapeutics and new innovative science that can actually make us less reliant on vaccinations and pills. This is for our
So this right here, this is why they're demonizing the ostriches. It's not because avian flu. It's not because they're dangerous, but because of that exact purpose, that these ostriches have antibodies that could be useful for therapeutics that drive away from the big pharmaceutical agenda. So now you kind of understand why the Food Inspection Agency of Canada is involved in this. Now you kind of understand the rest of the story. That they're using these ostriches purposely for their antibodies that could possibly be used for natural therapeutics and drive away from the big pharmaceutical lobby establishment that has corroded the entire Canadian Parliament, that has corroded the entire government system, that has definitely corroded this country. We saw it during COVID, and we're seeing it further down the road. We're long past, the lockdowns and the mandates, but we're still seeing it. And this is why. This is why they're going after the ostriches. Because like I said, I didn't see this when 2005 there was an avian flu outbreak. There's lots of different diseases out there. I never seen them calling out ostriches and birds like this and demonizing farmers. This is the first time I've ever seen about it. But now she's stating that this is because we want to invest in these ostriches for the antibodies. So let's hear the rest of it.
Children. This is for our grandchildren. This is for freedom. This is for hope. All of our animals have names. Our oldest is 35. And Carney, Mark Carney, nobody will listen. All of our politicians have just turned a blind eye. Please help us. President Trump, please help us in Canada. The world needs you right now.
Again, these are the same politicians that demonized Canadians when it came to the Freedom Convoy. The same politicians that want to tone police us. They're telling us to tone down the rhetoric as they're spewing more divisive rhetoric every single day. The same politicians that crack down on people's bank accounts that are still doing this, by the way. Now that they were able to coordinate that effort with the Freedom Convoy, now anyone's bank account could be locked away by federal action, by the government. Like I said, this has been a long process of an absolute tyrannical shift. And I am just at the point. I came to the conclusion long ago that we are never going to vote our way out of this. Electorally, we're screwed. And, even with Pierre Poilievre, I don't think there's going to be much difference in the way of governance, the same as Mark Carney or, Jagmeet Singh of the NDP or whoever now the NDP could be. Who matters in office. It doesn't matter who the character is. It's the same story. Because our countries are completely captured by the worst of the worst. And if we are going to survive, if we are going to have a healthy country for us, for our children, for our grandchildren, for future generations to become Canadians and be inspired by this country, then we need to call out now. We need to do something. We need to gather together now and call out this BS. That we need to come together just like we did with the Freedom Convoy. I know it's possible. I know it's possible. We can come together, coast to coast, all walks of life, and call out this BS. It just takes a level-headed person to not be completely brainwashed or completely diluted into the propaganda, into the divisiveness, and focusing on Canada. Focusing on the fact that we are Canadians. We all bleed. We all, we all come together on the same policies, that the economy is affecting all of us, that the border is affecting all of us, and get away from that divisive, back and forth. Because that is all part of the ploy. It's not left versus right. It's us versus them. And whether you have the heart or don't have the heart for these ostriches, just note, it's not going to stop with just this. They've already demonized a lot of the farming community. They've already demonized the agricultural industry for quite some time. And whether it's the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party, they're both bought by the same donors. I mean, you even look at here in Ontario, Doug Ford was going to put boots on the ground to start opening up the Greenbelt. And for anyone that knows about Ontario and the Greenbelt, that is the most luscious, state-of-the-art agricultural sector of the province and probably the country. Like, it is the most fertile soil. It is the most useful when it comes to growing crop, to feeding the country. And Doug Ford was willing to hollow that out for his construction donors and his lobbyist buddies, his real estate goons that campaigned with them to cause this kind of destruction. And if they're going to destroy the Greenbelt, for the opportunity to build condo buildings, where are people going to grow their crops? Because that is luscious soil, ladies and gentlemen, those fertile land you can get into the province. So, this is heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. My heart goes out to Katie and her family in this ostrich farm. I know they've been mentioned numerous times on other shows. I think Jimmy Dore even covered some of this. But just this should warn you. This is a dark warning. This is our government. And they're not just going to stop at them. And who knows if you could be next.